Before I continue, this video is for anybody that owns any type of land. I don't care if you live in the city and you have a house and some land and you have grass, or if you are a gardener and you have a little plot of ground, or basically you do commercial sized gardening, or if you're a farmer and you're putting in hay fields or putting in other crops. It doesn't matter if you have fruit trees or you're a tree farmer. Anytime we deal with planting any type of crop, it has roots. We're talking about fertility, and this video is for you because it will help you make the best decisions possible and get the most growth, because what you're doing is you're wasting time and you're wasting money and you're wasting dreams. Make your dreams become reality, and by having the right fertility, it's going to be your key to success. So follow me and please listen carefully, because this will make the difference between your success and your failure. For all my lifetime, this is the one thing I've learned as I get older is, do it right the first time. And this is something that most people take a guess at, and you really don't need to. It's very simple to do. So stay tuned. Hey guys, this is Brad from Blue Nile Farm. Welcome to the channel. If you're a gardener, farmer, or even just if you have animals, you want to work your pasture and you want to look at the fertility aspects of your property, so you can grow the best grass or the best produce that you can do, soil tests are one of the first things you should be doing, and most people don't do it. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about doing soil samples so we can send it in to get the appropriate soil test for proper lime and proper fertilizer. So stay tuned. I've owned my farm for 30 years, and I started really getting into crops probably more so in the last, say, 10 to 12 years, where I started doing my hay business. And I started off doing soil tests, and I knew that I was always lime deficient and always try to apply the right type of fertilizer. But the bottom line, I was never doing it 100% right. And the other thing I was also doing is I also got involved with selling a lot of compost and manure to a lot of gardeners. And I've realized over time that a lot of people really don't do soil tests at all. And I know from the farming perspective, because I do it on a part-time basis, that's probably one of the first things I should have done right, was really push and put my money into the fertilizers and the spraying and trying to optimize my fields. But the problem in farming is we get too hung up on, I need more tractors, I need more equipment. We want to do more acres, but we're not producing the best yield possible. So speed up 12 years later, what I've realized in my own production of like hay and pasture land is I'm a terrible manager when it comes down to liming and fertilizing, and I need to put my money into that. And now that I have most of the equipment I need, I kind of change gears to start doing that. So this year I'm going to talk about, I did a lot more with lime. I bought my own lime spreader to save costs. The downfall is for most of us, especially if you're a small farmer, is you can't afford all this equipment to get started, and it's very cumbersome. And but the problem is, you can put the greatest seed down you want, but if you don't have the right fertility, your seed's not going to go anywhere. The other downfall is if you don't have the proper pH in your soil, keeping it close to neutral, where you're adding lime, you can put a lot of money into fertilizer, and a third of your fertilizer that you're spending your money on is wasted. So for every $300 you put in, you're only getting $200 worth of fertilizer that actually works. That extra $100 evaporated because your soil conditions were not correct. When it comes down to gardening, I know so many gardeners, all they do is drop manure every year and they mix it in and they say how crappy their soil is, and it's all clay or whatever, and they want to mix something in, but they never know the fertility aspects of it. In another realm, I know guys that do hay on a small basis, and all they do is go get a few bags of triple 19, no mind or reason, they just spread it on their fields and they think they're getting anywhere, and they really don't produce like they should. So today, I really want to spend the time on how to do it properly, how to do a soil test so you can send in a sample, and then you can find out and decide what do you want to do. Do you want to, what type of fertilizer do you need? Do you need to add more nitrogen? Do you need to add lime? Because I don't care if you're a gardener, a crop farmer, a pasture producer for your livestock. If your grass and what you're growing isn't growing properly, you're losing. And it doesn't matter what it is. So today we're going to go through and I'm going to show you what you need to do, how to take a sample, and so you can kind of optimize your productivity. Because the way I look at it now is in like as far as doing hay goes, no matter what the hay fields are, the more cuttings I get, the more money I generate. If I'm renting that field, the more I can get out of that field, the more money it makes it worth running that field. You know, if I have to go in the field and cut the hay, tether the hay, rake the hay, bale the hay, and remove the hay every time I cut, why don't I want to get as much bang out of my dollar and get as much productivity as I can? And it all comes down to fertility, and it all comes down to adding dollars and cents. And you know, the downfall of fertility is it costs money to lime a field. It costs money to, and time and fuel to pay somebody to go out here and do this, and it's very expensive. So I got to the point now, because I do about 150 acres of hay, that I'm going to start doing this myself. And you know, over this year alone, I put 184 ton of lime on my fields, and I know I'm so deficient, I need to get something in there. And after I do this test, then I will associate and you know, figure out what I need to do after I lime them this year. But you know, all I'm trying to say is that you have to stay on top of this. And every 3 years, 2 years, you should do a soil test, depending on what you're growing, just to make sure that you're doing everything properly. Because you know, if you can optimize your yields, then you're optimizing your time, and it's well worth money spent if you're getting the yield back. And I think that that's probably one of the most important things you should be doing versus just guessing. So with that said, let me kind of take you through what you need to do a soil test. To do a soil test is very simple. You only need two things. You need a tool like this. This is a probe that's designed to actually take a soil sample, and it has a little foot thing where I can put my foot on here and push it down into the ground, so I don't have to fight it. This is very handy because it is able to go in and grab a core. It gives the depth of how deep I'm going, and then I can remove that piece of the core that I need for a sample. And what you need to do is go into your fields, and you want to take as many samples as you can throughout all different areas of your field. You can do a crisscross pattern, you can do a Z pattern. You just want to get into all different areas of the field. If you have a part of your field that's really thick and a part of the area that's you're thin, you want to kind of get an equal mixture of both. You know, and what you want to try to do is then take it and put it in a container so it can start to dry. But the probe here is really a very handy thing. This one is an AMS probe. It's made in America. It's probably cost you like $60, $70. You do not have to buy these unless you do this all the time like I do. If you just have a garden, you probably go to your local extension office, and you probably will have these, and they'll probably let you borrow them, or even in your soil and water district, and you can use that as your measure. And in Ohio, the Soil and Water Conservation, as well as the Extension Services, are where you go and get your soil test kits. Now, not every state tests their soil. Like in Ohio, all soil tests are going through Penn State, Pennsylvania State University. They do the soil tests and the analysis. So what you need to do is be able to take a clean container, grab a bunch of samples, and basically put them in a bag and fill out the sheet that they want you to do, and you can send it in. And it doesn't matter where you live in the country, somewhere for your state somebody does that soil test, and you need to find out where. Now, there's private companies that do soil tests. They're very expensive. They can be up to $100, you know. But for in Ohio, Penn State, I think it's like $15 to do a soil test per, you know, sample. So you want to try to do a sample of field or sample of fields that are on farms, and just get an idea of what that field actually is, so you can put the proper lime and fertility into that field. Depending on what you're growing now, will give you the results. So for example, if I was a gardener and I was doing this field here and I wanted a garden, I would have to fill out my soil sample and tell them and list it that I am doing it for gardening. If I'm going to put it in a hay field, I need to tell them that it's going to be a hay field and what type of hay I'm producing. If I want to plant it in the cornfield, you know, for agricultural corn, you know, then I would tell them that. Or if it's soybeans. So it all depends on what you're growing is going to make a difference. If you're into orchards or trees or doing nursery stock, it's the same thing. They just need to know what your plan of what you're going to do with that ground to dictate what your fertility level should be. So that's something you should know. Now, for me, I'm on grass, and so depending on where you're looking and what you're growing is going to dictate the depth level. And for me, you know, I'm doing hay, so I'm interested in the first 6 inches. That's like the sweet spot. 6 inches of depth is what I need to send in for a sample. But normally the root system for most plants is about 4 to 6 inches down. So, in reality, depending on what you're growing, it's going to dictate what you need to sample. But for most of the things that you are sampling, between 0 and 6 inches is all you would need. So I just need to get this probe 6 inches into the ground and pull it up, and then take my sample and put it in my container. And that's really all you have to do. Now, if you don't have a probe like this, you can use a shovel or a trowel and just dig 6 inches and grab a sample that way, and take 6 inches from the top to the bottom and put it in a container, and just do it again sporadically in the field. That's really all you need to do to take a sample. And you need about as much as for like an 8 ounce or at least 16 ounces worth of dirt to be safe. And then depending on what the sample size is that's required by your state testing agency is going to be what they decide to do. So you want to make sure you have enough. And you also want to have enough of a sample. You can't have too much. And that's really it in a nutshell. So to do a soil sample, all you need to do is take your probe, put it down toward the ground, put your foot on the probe itself, push it down, give it a quick turn, pull it up. And so far you can see I got about 8 inches. Well, I only need 6 inches of it, so I'm just going to put it in like so. And the last couple inches I can get rid of. And that's it. Very simple. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk all over this field. I'm going to take a bunch of samples. I'm going to fill this thing up. And then once it's done, I'm going to let it dry. Once it's dry, I'm going to mix all this together. And I'm going to put it into a plastic bag that's provided to me by the testing unit in your state, and let them, and then I'll send it in. And after I fill out the proper paperwork, depending on the category of what I'm getting tested for, whether for a vegetable garden, whether for a fruit tree farm, whether you're just doing agricultural grasses, or whether you're doing conventional farming, whatever the topic actually is that they're going to test for, and then I'm going to send it in. And they'll tell me, my if I need lime, how much lime do I need. They're going to tell me about what fertilizer ratios I should be putting down and when I should be putting them down. And it gives you some kind of an idea. So even if you really don't know the interpretation of this results, you can work through your county extension office in your state, and that extension agent will be trained in this, and they will probably help you, tell you what you need to do. Or you go to your local farm co-op and give them your soil test, and they can analyze it for you and give you the end results. But no matter what, you don't have to struggle and try to figure this out yourself. Just get the test done, go talk to a professional, and they will help you, tell you exactly what you need to do so you can meet that fertility requirement, so you're successful in producing the best hay, crop, vegetables, produce, whatever, or fruit that you want to produce. And that's where you're spending your money wisely, because there's nothing more frustrating than years that are good and years that are bad. But if you can get the most bang for your dollar, the better off you will be. This year I only got one cut in this hay field. This field needs a lot of help. It's been sitting fallow for a few years, and I know it hasn't had enough lime. I've never limed it since I've been farming it. So it's very important that I get started now, because some of this fertility isn't something that happens overnight. And that's why I started it this year, to get some lime down in these fields, because it's going to take, almost a year before it actually really starts to kick in. So with that said, I'm going to go out and I'm going to start grabbing cores, and then we'll talk one more time before we're done. So just to show you, this is some of the cores that I've gotten so far, and we'll mix it all together and then we'll sample it and we'll send it in. But I have more cores to grab, but I kind of want to show you kind of what it looks like and how it's going. But this tool to grab cores is so easy. It's well worth the money. I tried to use a spade and shovel before, and it's kind of rough. This thing makes it so much easier, but if you don't do it all the time, it might not be cost effective for you. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video on soil testing and how to take a sample. It's very easy to do. It doesn't take you all that long. It's well worth the investment. Just get with your county extension office or your soil conservation district in your state. Find out how to go about getting a soil test. If you have the desire, borrow or buy one of these soil sample probes. Makes a heck of a difference. Makes life a lot easier for you. And remember, you're trying to get the top 6 inches and send that in. Generally, that's all you need to take care of it. If you're doing trees and stuff, you may be looking a little bit deeper. But, you know, for the most part, fertility starts with the top and works its way down. And that's what we're trying to cover, is that ground where we hit the root systems to keep it viable and to get better growth. You know, I know that this is the key to success. I think you do too, down deep. You just got to give it a shot and try it. And I let these experts help you interpret the results, and I will guarantee you're going to have a better crop in the future. So again, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you later.